Welcome back. Today I want to take an opportunity to discuss the state of gaming at this time, things going on in the gaming industry, releases in the months of January. I thought we would call this State of Gaming January 2023. Just monthly name it instead of going over the releases for a month that are coming out. I thought we might take an opportunity to just discuss some of the games that are out, discuss some of the review scores some of those games might have been given in some cases, in one case in particular, and just kind of have a more relaxed chat about what is actually going on in the industry. As you know, January is usually a slower time in the industry. It's usually that lull before it starts to pick up in later months. It gives you an opportunity to maybe go back and purchase some games that you might have missed out on, clear out that backlog. It just gives you an opportunity to catch up if you don't have anything to pick up. Even if you are picking up all the games dropping in January, there are not that many of them. So you can kind of wade through and pick your favorites, play those, and clear out that backlog, as I said. Because as we all know, we continue to add games to that. We might get to them eventually. It's just how it is at this point. We've come to accept that we're going to have a backlog. I just thought that might be something we could discuss here. And before we begin, I want to thank you. If you're new here to Would You Gaming, check us out. Let us know what you think. If you stuck around since the beginning, we greatly appreciate that. Always trying to improve the experience, trying to get these out in a more consistent time frame. I know I always say that, but it seems like every time I turn around, there's another hurdle to overcome. But hopefully, eventually, we'll be at a state where I can just walk in here and record, and I won't have to go through the whole setup process, because that's kind of one of the hindrances there. Got everything packed up. I kind of have to unpack it and do it. But those are first world problems there. So let's just jump right into things here and discuss some of the games that have released this month starting out. And the first two games I wanted to discuss were Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden. These are both titles that came out long ago on older platforms. Persona 3 Portable was initially released on the PlayStation 2 as Persona 3 and later ported to the PSP, adding a surname onto the title. Persona 4 was released on the PlayStation 2 as well, but wasn't given another release until the PlayStation Vita with Persona 4 Golden. Both of these titles are loved by the fan base, who have been clamoring for them to get a release on modern hardware for the longest time. Up until recently, you had either had to play on PC or own older hardware to play these. You had to have a PSP for Persona 3 Portable or a PS Vita or PS TV to play Persona 4 Golden. As I've stated before, I bought a PS TV just so I could start that process on Persona 4 Golden, but I ran into some issues with corrupted save data. I don't know if it was the SD card I bought or what the problem was, but starting over just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I left it alone for the longest time. It is nice to see the developers finally bring these older titles that were much loved back after years of requests from the fan base. I am doubtful that we will get a physical release for these either, because they're really cheap. They're really cheap. They're $19.99 each. Even with a double pack, that's only $40. I don't know that Atlas or Sega, the parent company, are going to find that to be profitable for them. It would be nice if they would, so we could preserve these games and not run into the problem in the future of not being able to play them if we don't have our old Switch with that downloaded data. I picked up Persona 4 Golden as I was playing on it on the PS TV, and I liked it a lot. I picked that up. I have not picked up Persona 3 Portable as of yet. I will likely wait until I finish Persona 4 to do that. If for no other reason that Persona 4 is like over a 100-hour game if you do everything. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't know that I will, but if it sucks me in, there is that probability. I'm excited of what I've played of the game so far. I haven't finished much. I've got the main character's persona. I've kind of been on a Stardew Valley kick as of late with my kid. We've been playing in local co-op mode, trying to build up her farm. So we've been playing on that the last couple evenings. I haven't had an opportunity to jump back onto Persona 4 Golden. Either way, I am excited for it. And Persona 5 piqued my interest in the series. I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't know about the Shin Megami Tensei or Persona series until Persona 5 actually sucked them in. And I had friends who told me about Persona 5 for a while, I held off for the longest. I held off for the longest on purchasing it. The J-pop music in particular is super catchy in Persona 4, and in Persona 5 it's just a whole nother level. I haven't experienced any of 3, and I cannot wait to see what it has on offer as well. I know these are older titles designed for older hardware, yet I cannot help but be excited. I expect there to be some dated mechanics that I run into, but these are excellent JRPG titles. In particular, one of the mechanics missing from Golden that they implemented in 5 was the social confidants. And you can build up your social confidants in Golden, but they don't grant the abilities like they did in 5. In 5, with each level, they had a chance of gaining an ability to give you an extra attack in battle. If you're stunned, they might snap you out of it. It's just some quality of life stuff, some things to make it a little bit easier there. Now, I will say one thing that has come out about these titles, and that is that they are native on the Xbox franchise. On the Xbox ecosystem, these are native versions of the game, and they're simply ports on PlayStation, and I believe the Switch as well. Though they don't look terrible, if you ask me. They do not look terrible in the least, but they're not native. It's not a native version designed for that, and I kind of lend a lot of this to the fact that Sega was cut a big check by Microsoft to put Persona 5, Persona 4, and Persona 3 onto Game Pass on launch. I expect that is the case, and that maybe in the future there will be an update for a native version, but only time will tell. Either way, we have these experiences that we can play at this time on modern hardware, and I am, if nothing else, thankful for that. Next, I wanted to move on to Fire Emblem Engage. Fire Emblem Engage Fire Emblem has been around since the Famicom, but has struggled to gain a foothold in the West for the longest time. As of late, it seems there is a resurgence in the franchise, and people have renewed interest. And a lot of that has to do with Three Houses coming out and sucking a lot of people in. Following the success of this Switch title, Nintendo released Fire Emblem Warriors, a Dynasty-style game where it was a more or less hack and slash title, and now they're releasing they have released Fire Emblem Engage. I personally never played any of the NES or SNES titles when I was younger, only playing the Shadow Dragon and Blades of Light release on the Switch recently, and vaguely remember playing one of the Game Boy Advance titles when I was younger. I was a fan of Roy and Martha and Smash, of course, but wouldn't have had the foggiest where these characters actually came from if it wasn't spelled out for me. Fire Emblem may have taken its time gaining popularity outside of Japan, but Nintendo seems to have taken notice and is prepared to capitalize on this newfound popularity. Engage doesn't shake up the classic combat of Fire Emblem, but it does add some more flair to it and adding flexibility, keeping the flexible weapon triangle system, and does add some extra anime-like attacks. You'll see many familiar faces from previous games returning to assist the main character on their journeys. Magical emblem rings contain these heroes from the past. Finding them allows you to pair up party members with them for varying results, giving special attacks and skills. Engage attacks in particular are visually appealing and overpowered in a lot of situations. As of late, I've been on a huge turn-based strategy game kick, and this game looks like it could hold my attention for a while. I'm not picking this up at this time. I'll eventually pick it up down the road when I actually have some time to actually play it. And I just know that I have other things coming out in February in particular, some heavy hitters that are going to take all of my attention. This is a game to keep on your radar and pick up if you're a Fire Emblem fan. If you are on the fence about it, check out some reviews. They're overwhelmingly positive. The game looks anime as hell. It looks like a good time for anybody, in my opinion. Check it out if you have been on the fence about it. It does look like a good game, though. Another game that seems to have a little bit of... what is I want to say about it? Another game that does have a little bit of drama around it, and that is Forspoken. Forspoken, one of the biggest budget games to come out in January. A game coming to PC and PS5 exclusively. A game on PC that released on PC and PS5 exclusively. That appears to be one of the few titles that make this statement that it is time to move on to a more powerful console or build yourself a PC. After many delays in a demo with responses ranging from positive praise to lost interest from others, Forspoken released on the 24th of January. Now, I saw people on Twitter who are PC purists who canceled pre-orders just because the specs didn't look as great as they could. And I have seen people complaining about the sameish combat, the dialogue being a little bit iffy, as well as just not having the graphical fidelity you would expect of a current gen game. It's an open world game by Luminous Production and Square Enix using the Luminous engine, and you play as Frey Holland journeying across a magical land filled with strange creatures and dragons, and you're accompanied by a talking cuff. You're able to use different magical abilities, ranging from traversal spells to spells that you can use to pepper enemies from a distance. Then, of course, you have spells to use in close range combat. The combat does seem to offer a bit of flexibility based on what was offered in the demo, and there are some spells that are a bit more stylish, offering more flair than others. It looks good enough. The gameplay looks decent. It looks like a mid-tier game, if you ask me. It did not score well on Metacritic. Both critics and players alike scored it around 66. I've seen different takes on Twitter as well, where people are talking about it actually is a good game, that the dialogue isn't as bad as they say. But I mean, that's to personal preference. If you ask me, that's personal preference. That's chalked up to that. If it looks good to you and you're interested in it, you'll likely have a good time with it. To me, it just looks like after a while it might become a tad bit repetitive. That is my perspective on it, though. Dead Space Remake is the next game I want to talk about. Finally, the title that I'm most excited about, despite no plans to buy or play, at least until I again decide to bite the bullet and buy a PS5. The title I'm referring to, of course, is Dead Space, as I stated. It's a remake of an early 2000 sci-fi horror games. Yes, I am referring to the ground-up reimagining of Dead Space, a series we haven't seen since the 2013s. Dead Space, an IP that has been dormant for over 10 years, a title that I played and completed on the Xbox 360. Strange considering my dislike for survival horror titles and jump scares. Nonetheless, I am excited to see the franchise make its resurgence, and am hopeful the initial entry does well enough to warrant sequels or new reimaginings of the other two titles. Dead Space is a rare survival horror game that drew me in, and you were faced with enemies that could scare you and a finite amount of ammo, but were not helpless. I believe that what kept me invested was the ability to take destiny in my own hands and survive. The necromorphs could be terrifying, but being able to dismember them was oh so satisfying. I can only hope that the remake lives up to the memories I have of the original, and I'm excited to play it one day in the future. Having been a fan of the original series, I can't help but be excited and to wait to see how these actually shake out, how this title actually shakes out. This will be gore-filled and not for the faint of heart, but if you're looking to play the game that precedes the Callisto Protocol that inspired it, you don't have long to wait. It actually releases on the 27th, which is tomorrow as of the recording of this video. There are not a lot of games that actually came out. As I stated, January is a slower time in gaming. Aside from the games released, we've had a little bit of controversy, as I stated, with Forspoken. And of course, Hogwarts Legacy releasing next month is, God, that's just a whole other level there. It's just, people are losing their minds over Hogwarts Legacy, over the artist, or I'm sorry, over the author of the series, who likely isn't getting much kickback from these games, to be honest with you. If we're being honest, I feel like J.K. Rowling has already got her huge pot of money that she was going to make off of this. She'll make a small amount off game sales, but it's not anything substantial that will affect her bottom line in any way, shape, or form. It just seems, as of late, we've had just a lot of drama in the gaming space. It's kind of crazy. People getting upset about things, and I understand that. If it offends you, if you don't agree with the creator of the series, and you want to boycott it, that is cool. That is completely fine. I respect your right to do so. And the whole problem I have with it is when you come in bashing individuals who might just be huge fans of the Harry Potter IP, who might just like the game and think it looks cool. Myself, the movies are mid. I've read one or two of the books. Harry Potter is just okay in my mind. My wife loves it. My wife is a fanatic. If it's on, she'll probably watch the freaking movie. It just looks okay to me. The game, I will say, some of the combat I saw from the game made it look excellent. So I don't know how this will turn out. The developer of the game is actually on. They worked on Disney Infinite and Cars, the game, Cars 3, the game, I think. So they're moving on to a much larger title. I have to imagine that if the game wasn't up to snuff at this point, that WB Studios would have shut them down, or the parent company Warner would have came in and said, you know what, we're going to move this on to somebody else. Similar to how Knights of the Old Republic was ripped away from Aspyr. We'll see how the game shakes up. It's just a lot of controversy around it at this time. It's kind of nuts to me, but hey, to each their own. We all have different opinions. That's what makes the world go round. We're all different people at the end of the day. Again, with it being a slower time in the month, take this time to let your wallet recover. Play some of those games you have not beat yet. Clear out that backlog. Not like that's going to happen. Let's not lie to ourselves. That's not going to happen there. We're not going to clear out that backlog. I wanted to just take this opportunity to discuss with you guys some of the things going on in the gaming space. Talk about some of the releases I was excited for. February is stacked. February is much more stacked than January, and it's right around the corner. We have just, 5-6 days now until February kicks off, and then we get to look at a lot of those larger budget games, some of the more heavy hitters that are coming next month. Big shout out to the Bardock DLC in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. That is out now. I've kind of been eyeing that as well. I finished the base game Kakarot, never went back and got the Trunks DLC. I'm waiting on that to go on sale. I'm going to snag that up, and I'll probably do the same with the Season 2 DLC pass that they have out now. That's out as well. You get to play, in Bardock's perspective, playing his storyline. I really like what they're doing with that in Kakarot, taking some of the other characters that we might have just seen snippets of in the show and kind of fleshing out their stories, similar with the Future Trunks arc. We have the Bardock arc at this point. It's a good time to be had if you're a DBZ fan. I'm a huge DBZ fan from back when I was a kid. Toonami coming home every day, just popping down in front of the TV, watching that. Sailor Moon, Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, Ronin GT. My God, there was so much good back in the 90s. But alas, all good things must end. And thus, we bring this episode to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed. Appreciate you guys sticking with us while I ramble on about games I love and pop culture franchises at this point, I guess. Let us know what you think and how we might improve this. You can reach us on any of our social platforms, Would You Gaming, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're not on TikTok as much these days. I don't even upload there on a regular basis. Check us out. Let us know what we can do to improve, and I hope you guys enjoy.